everyone, and welcome to my channel. This is Barbara Talks Some More. My name is Barbara. This is my second channel where I go over public figure natal chart readings, synastry readings, and whatever else comes through to talk about. Now, I do have my original channel called Barbara Talks. Over there, I go in depth in terms of astrology, natal chart placements, go over metaphysical things over there as well. I have playlists, you guys, so definitely check out my playlist if there's something you're interested in learning about. You'll find it in the playlist. Okay, maybe it's a certain placement, even synastry. I talk about synastry over there as well. So, even through these readings, when I do the synastry readings and also public figure natal chart readings, it's a good way to even learn about yourselves. With that being said, this video is for educational purposes only, okay? This is based off of my own interpretation of the charts here, okay? And also, with that being said as well, everything that I do say in this video is alleged. You guys can take these videos to also learn more about yourselves. Now, that being said as well, sometimes it's not always going to apply to you, right? It depends how the energy is manifesting in somebody's natal chart. Placement can mean one thing, absolutely, but, it depends what's going on in your natal chart. Maybe there's an aspect or something of that sort, or, with the whole amalgamation of the whole chart, right? There could be something else taking a precedence over certain energy. So it might not always play out that way in your own natal chart as well, okay? And also, if some of you guys are interested in getting your own natal chart reading, synastry reading, progress natal chart reading, the link for that is going to be in the description box below. You go on my website, you go underneath the readings tab, you select which reading you guys would like, and then an email window should pop up. You guys send me the email and we will go from there. I also have mini synastry readings, mini natal chart readings as well, okay? So that's pretty much that. So let's go ahead and get into this video here. And also, by the way, I'm not a psychologist. So those are all of my disclaimers, okay? And like I mentioned, sometimes these energies can play out in either the light side or the shadow side, okay, in your own natal charts as well. So again, maybe it'll resonate for your chart or maybe it won't, right? Depends how it's playing out in your chart as well. So especially in synastry, it depends with synastry because, there's a certain aspect can mean one thing, but then in like the whole story, it could play out in a different way. So let's go ahead and jump into it. It's interesting. I've actually been hooked into Kim K and her mom, Kris's energy here, okay, for maybe a month now. Again, the time flies, so maybe it's longer, maybe it's less, okay, but at least for the last few weeks, I was hooked into their energy, which is so interesting because now recently, which by the way, I should start putting dates in these videos as well. Today is November 16th, okay, 2025, when I am recording this, okay, so by the time I post it, maybe it'll be sometime in the future by the time I edit it, came, because I did do a few videos today actually, so by the time I get to this one, it might be some time. But anyways, with that being said, I have been hooked into their energies, and it's interesting because Kris just had her birthday, and Kim and Kris, their relationship to me is so interesting because it's like, first of all, Kim's kind of like the golden child, but at the same time, she was like groomed from a young age to be in the position that she is in, and you can tell like that in the whole family dynamic, like she's the number one, and it's interesting because, okay, so in terms of their birthdays here, for Kim, I have her here as October 21st, 1980, okay, born at 10:46 a.m., okay, in Los Angeles, California. Anytime I see someone's chart and I see they're born in LA, I know the parent went to there, okay, let's say the parent isn't born in LA, sometimes it's going to be generational as well. So Kris was born in San Diego, okay, and then Kim was born in LA. Anytime I see someone's born in Los Angeles, I always know, like, the parents, they either came there or someone in the family line came there because that person wanted to be famous. Like, that's just the way I hook into the energy. It might not be everybody, but, when I see someone was born in LA, it always connects me to the parents. The parents could be from there themselves, absolutely, right? But sometimes it depends, like, when I hook into the energy. Sometimes I hook into it and I'm like, yes, someone went to the city of dreams here wanting to get into acting, modeling, something of that sort, and then the kid ended up coming through, okay, to basically play that out. So that's kind of what's happening here between these two. It's interesting for Kris's birthday information here. She's born on November 5th, 1955. They had two different times of birth for her, okay, and she wasn't actually on astro.com, which is interesting. So here's the thing, Kate, this family is so big, I would be surprised if, this information's even accurate, even though they do celebrate their birthday and like their whole life is online. Like, who knows, maybe they add a day, maybe they take off a day, who knows, right? Maybe they don't post when the actual birthday is, because all these people do work with astrologers themselves, even though Kim was talking poorly about psychics, okay, which was also done by design to divert people from psychics. But anyways, that's just my own opinion, allegedly. So that being said, we're going to go with all this information based off of this, okay? Maybe it's different, okay? I wouldn't be surprised if it was, but we're going to read it as it is. Now, for Kris, okay, they basically had her as two different birth times online. Like I mentioned, she's on astro.com. Okay, that's the website that usually has like the ratings. So for Kris, they either had her as a Virgo rising or Scorpio rising. I took Scorpio rising, which is 6:42 a.m. Puts her sun in the 12th house, Mercury's in the 12th. Yes, I see this for her, and Neptune is in the 12th house as well. She's definitely like a 12 houser with like her visionary vibe, and also with just like the karma that she's here to clear. I find that really, really interesting. And then she was born in San Diego herself. So again, you know, it's interesting. I've never watched a single episode of the Kardashians in my entire life. When they were big, okay, when I was younger, I did have friends who used to watch them. Everything that I've learned about these people has either been through confirmation in the background. Everything I have learned about these people has literally been against my will, okay? Either something that popped up, someone else is talking about them, you know, or whatever, they're somehow in the news, or, you know, it's just like somehow out there in the ethers, even though I have never watched a single episode of their show. I literally have not. I've seen snippets of it, okay, even back in the day. You know, there would be things circulating around and people talking about them, especially because Kim was involved with Paris Hilton and all of that. But yeah, so I've literally never watched anything. So anyways, again, you know, I know a lot about them and like their story and so on and so forth. And same with like Kris, right? So, you know, even though I know a lot, there's some things obviously that I don't know about them. So I don't know at what point in time she moved to LA and had Kim. Okay, like I don't know what was going on in her life at that point in time. But again, anytime I see someone's born in LA, okay, and let's say the parent isn't, okay, it depends like when I hook into the energy, but usually I know like, yeah, the parent wants to be in show business for sure, okay? So, you know, already the desire line is there. It's already been kind of initiated. Now Kim comes through. Now, the other thing that I find interesting already in the numerology here, Kris is a 5-day number, okay? Usually these people are attractive, okay? They are good looking, and they also do tend to be in the modeling industry or something of that sort. So already Kris was kind of finding her way like around all these rich men, which again, one of the stories out there allegedly is like that her mom pushed her in that direction because she was a single mom, okay? Or she was divorced or something of that sort. So she kind of pushed her to go find the wealthy men and the rich men. Okay, so kind of, I guess, started there with the grandma. That's like Kris's mom at this point. And again, allegedly, this is just based off of what I've heard, right? Hearsay. So it's interesting because when I added Kris's date of birth, okay, she basically gets a 9 life path, which actually resonates to me as well. Because to me, the 9 life path feels kind of like the 12th house energy in astrology. So it's kind of like you're here to wrap something up, close out some kind of cycle, okay, potentially last lifetime, which for Kris, I feel like it's her last lifetime, interestingly enough, okay? She's reached this like pinnacle of success. She's overcome a lot, right? She's cleared through a lot of generational things. Like that's just kind of what I hook into for her, interestingly enough, right? So it's this, and then also again, that kind of resonated for me when I was like, okay, she's a 12 houser. Yes, I see that. And it makes sense too, because if she's a 12 houser, that means a lot of Kim's placements go into her 12th house, right? So that resonated as well. Now for Kim, it's interesting here. She's born on the 21st. And that would be a 3-day number. Okay, so again, there's a media, social media, being out there talking, you know, networking, talking to people, you know, using your throat chakra, even though she's not like a talkative person, you know, and even though a lot of what they do say is like scripted and like they seem like they're open, but then they're not. She is a Mercury and Scorpio at the end of the day. It's like there's this energy here of just like networking, being out there, using social media, right? And of course, right, they were the ones who started using social media in that way, right? Like that's where they kind of marketed, right, a lot of their things. Like they really brought upon that even influencer culture, if you think about it, right? Especially like online influencer culture, right? It's not where they started. Obviously they had their TV show, but that's also what really helped them, I would say, right? So that's that 3-day number. And then her life path number is 22, which to me is really, really interesting because that's the quote unquote master builder number. So that's why she's kind of like the backbone of this whole family's empire, okay? It's interesting that it's in the numerology. I'm not sure if Kris went to psychics herself or astrologers or numerologists or something of that sort, okay? I wouldn't be surprised if they're heavily involved in this because remember, millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do, okay? So it's interesting because literally it's like Kim's energy field that basically propelled the family into this certain direction. Now, these two have a soul contract, which is really interesting to me. They really get along, even though the dynamic here is very much like Kris groomed Kim, okay? But also Kris was kind of groomed in her own way as well, allegedly. You know, some people may argue that like Kris basically prostituted her daughter. You know, she was the one who, you know, looked at the sex tape and all of these things. There is a certain desire line here, okay, on even Kim's side as well, right? Like, again, you know, I'm not blaming anybody here. It just is what it is. Like, this is just the dynamic. I'm just analyzing them, right? There is still a certain desire line here, even from Kim, where it's like she would have done anything to get to the top, okay? Like on that soul level. And I feel like a lot of this is connected to past lives. And I actually pick up on this more so for Kris, just like psychically. There's so much of a desire line on Kris's side on that soul level to be in the public eye, to be in the spotlight, okay? That it was kind of like all or nothing. Like she was going to get there one way or another. You know what I mean? And I think that that's where her like almost like relentless energy came from, right? Which is like they all call her a momager and so on and so forth. And look at this, like she's like managing them, but she's getting, you know, a cut of all of their money. You know what I mean? So it's really, really interesting. But yes, so Kim is her golden child. I mean, I'm sure everybody knows. And it's like, I wanted to look at the dynamic between the two of these. And I wanted to know what is it that creates like this like vibe between the two of them. Because when I hook into their energy, they're actually really, really harmonious. I feel like, again, you know, this whole family, I mean, I think everybody already knows that, you know, they wouldn't be where they are today, the rest of the siblings, if it wasn't for these two. Like, it's like these two, like, were scheming in their own corner, and they're always scheming, probably, right? Is really what it is. You know how people make that joke online where they're saying, like, the devil works hard, but Kris works harder? Like, yeah, that's really what it is. But it's like, at the same time, like, I feel like, just as I hook into the energy here, like, I feel like Kim enjoys that. Like, she enjoys being, like, the second-hand person, like, to Kris. Like, she enjoys being like the top within the family, right? Or like the hierarchy of the family, which is complex. I mean, that would have to be a whole analysis of its own for a different day, right? And again, based off of my own opinion. But yeah, that's kind of what's going on here. So let's look at some of these aspects here. So of course, they have 12th house synastry taking place here. This is karmic from previous lifetimes. Like these two, I think, have been trying to pull this off for some time. Like this is like Bonnie and Clyde energy. Not only do they have 12th house synastry, they have 10th house synastry as well, okay? And a lot of 11th house synastry as well, basically taking place here. So that's a combination here between the two of them. And they also even have 1st house synastry as well. That's why I do think that the rising sign for Kris is actually accurate. There's this energy here of like all or nothing, like push it, you know, till you make it to the top. Like do whatever you got to do to get there. They don't care who they have to throw under the bus. They don't care, you know, what they have to do to get there. You know, even like with the tapes, they're like, we'll do it, forget it, like later on, F it, we'll scrap it, you know, like off the internet and whatever, right? So that's the energy here. And I mean, look where they are today. It's very much a ruthless energy. So for example, for Kim, okay, so this is her planets going into Kris's house, okay? So Kim's sun goes into Kris's 12th house, okay? So it's almost like Kim is actually like the outward expression, okay, of Kris's desires is really what it is. It's like, you know, almost like Kris lives vicariously through her, which I mean, even if you look at the recent face surgery that she had done, like they're all starting to like look alike, you know what I mean? I mean, obviously they're family, and already one could argue that out of every like child, Kim already looked like the mom the most, right? But it's just like, there's something here because again, if Kris's rising sign actually is Scorpio, okay, and then her 12th house is Libra, okay, and then Kim is a Libra, right? Literally Libra, right? She's the outward expression of Kris's 12th house. Not only is it her secret desires, it's her unconscious desires. Like literally, like Kim is personifying them, okay? And you know, Kim takes pride in this and joy in this, right? To be that person for her is really what it is. Like she, I think, derives a lot of her validation from being that person for the mother. Is really what it is, and I think that's why she keeps pushing through. Is really, really what it is. And even like in that vlog that they had for the mother, right, for her birthday, for Kris's birthday, it was Kim, right, organizing everything, bringing everybody through, right? So it's like these two have a very interesting dynamic, okay? And it's almost like the rest of the siblings know their quote unquote place in this whole like sister system is really what it is, okay? The other thing I wanted to mention too that I thought of, I mean, you know, I'm sure so many people have done analyses of these people, so maybe somebody else has mentioned this before, but I find it interesting that they all have their names start with the letter K, which K is actually the 11th number, okay, in the alphabet. So it's like, again, the fact that they all have their names starting with K, it's like they're amplifying that 11 vibration, which is the master spiritual teacher, right? They're harnessing that energy, okay? These people are deep into the occult. I mean, same thing with Kris, you know, not only is it Scorpio in the 12th house, like she's got a bunch of Scorpio in here. She's got Sun in Scorpio, Venus in Scorpio, Saturn is in Scorpio as well. That's why she was always all about the marriage, or like always trying to lock the men down. I feel like in the past, like I know now she probably has her long-term boyfriend, but it's like because she has Venus conjunct Saturn taking place in her chart, sometimes these people do marry because they don't want to have financial issues. Like they marry basically for financial reasons, okay? Venus conjunct Saturn people, like sometimes they like fear, let's say poverty or like not having money so much that they will marry for money, okay? And it's interesting because that's literally what her own mom taught her, right? Allegedly, again, based off of what I've heard. Again, obviously, I don't know these people. These are just things that I've heard floating around the internet space, which is so interesting because she actually has a wound around the home, okay? She's got Chiron opposing the moon. She has a wound around the mother with that energy taking place as well. Okay, so it's almost like when she was younger, she had this deep desire, okay, for, again, the wealth, the money. Okay, I'm not sure if she was born into wealth already. I don't know what the backstory here is. All I know from their backstory, like Kris's mom, okay, which I believe her name is MJ. Anyways, she was like divorced or like a single mother or something of the sort, and then she like taught Kris, basically like pushed her out there, like go find a rich man kind of thing, right? And then because she got Venus and Saturn, like I don't know, does Kris have other siblings? I think she has that one sibling. It's ringing a bell, like that one lady who like went viral because she had beef with the sister. So it's interesting. This is like a cycle that's perpetuating in the feminine line already. And already when you have Scorpio in your chart, okay, whether it's in the big three, sun, moon, rising, the mother takes precedence basically over the home, like the household. Like the Scorpio energy is like the mother's like basically taking over. Like she's like pulling the puppet strings from like behind the scenes, okay? Or her energy does at least, okay? So that's basically what is going on with that, okay? She got Mercury conjunct Neptune. This could be fabricating stories, lies. She got Mercury in the 12th house as well. Super psychic with these energies, by the way. I think she's deep into the occult for sure. I mean, that kind of goes without saying, but I think this is past life knowledge for her. I think she's been trying to like anchor this for a few lifetimes now because it's 12th house, right? And the other thing with 12th house is, you know, a lot of people don't really talk about the 12th house when it comes to fame. This is something that I've observed myself. Maybe people are talking about it now, but this is something I've observed. I've spoken about this in the past on my other channel too. 12 housers have that potential, okay, because of the karmic aspect connected to the 12th house. So when you have karma to clear with a lot of people, okay, which tends to be a 12 houser, you can either clear it in the way where it's like, you know, you change your job a lot, or, you know, you are a part of a lot of hobbies, you know, you're part of a lot of classes, groups, so on and so forth, right? Where you meet all these people to clear karma with them. Or you get to those higher levels, right? In this case, like actual fame, right? And, you know, you're clearing a lot of karma with a lot of people at once, okay? So it's karmic in that way because you know all these people from previous lifetimes. And also the other really good part of the story here, when you do have 12th house, especially 12th house, some people project onto you, right? A dream. So they never fully know you, especially in the case of Kris, right? Like she's always there, right? But she's always like, you know, in the background or saying something like, she does this thing where it's like the attention isn't fully on her, even though she is out there and like known. It's so interesting. Like it's like she's not the face of the company, like that's Kim, right? But she's still like reaping the rewards. Like she still is known, of course she is, right? Like the whole family is, but she's not the face of it. Does that make sense? It's that 12th house, right? She's like elusive, and the Scorpio in the 12th house here, right? Scorpio sun in the 12th house. So it's this, and then a lot of the time Scorpio risings, you'll see them in modeling and you'll see them in acting or something of that sort. Again, you know, because they're able to portray that sexual energy. But it's not just that, like in the shadow of the energy, you know, a lot of people may or may not be aware of this, but in the shadows, Scorpio can also be a container for dark entities to operate through that person as well, okay? Sometimes they have that potential too. Okay, so keep this in mind. Okay, so that's something that can take place as well. Like I made a video about this recently too, where I was saying how Scorpio can have monitoring spirits around them. Okay, so people trying to monitor them, or they can be the monitoring spirit too. So sometimes that happens as well, and then that portrays on a screen too, which is like, you know, when people do, let's say like glamour magic, which for sure this family does, and so on and so forth. Again, allegedly my opinion, right? It's like they like embellish themselves energetically in a way where you're actually projecting your dreams onto them, which already Kim has that in her chart too. Okay, Kim's got that Neptune in the first house, you know. The Neptune in the first house is like the undertone of having a Pisces rising. Like, again, you look on a screen, these people are like, people want to watch you all the time. You have no talent for anything. It's really what it is. But at the same time, people want to watch you, right? I remember what I mentioned about the social media earlier. Okay. She's got Sun in the 11th, Mercury's in the 11th, Jupiter's in the 10th house. It's interesting. Her Jupiter is in Virgo. I always used to think her Jupiter was in Capricorn for the longest time. I guess it's because she's got Jupiter in the 10th house. But anyways, again, Jupiter in Virgo, you got the abundance of jobs is really what it is. Money and jobs come easily to you, especially Jupiter in the 10th, you know, success, Saturn in the 10th. That's that fame, success. Pluto's in the 10th too, operating behind the scenes, or not so much behind the scenes, I guess, to get to the top. You know what I mean? Coming out on top all of a sudden is really what it is. And yes, there's definitely a lot of occult influence with all of them. I pick up on that a lot, but to me it's like obvious, you know what I mean? So maybe if you're someone who's into astrology, you'll see it too, right? Or maybe you're hearing this for the first time and you're like, whoa, really? But yeah, to me it's something that's kind of like, this goes without saying, like, of course they're into these things, you know? But it's this. And then also for now, Kris's planets, Kris's Venus goes into Kim's 12th house. Okay, this is really interesting to me because it's like there's an energy here, I feel like, it's just psychically more so, that I feel like these two were like past life partners or something of that sort. Like there's like a husband and wife energy from a previous lifetime. Obviously not in this lifetime, you all, okay? But from a previous lifetime, I feel like they're carrying over this karma. Like I feel like these two have been trying to do this like Bonnie and Clyde thing for a long time. In a previous lifetime, they could have been involved in sketchy things, I feel like. I mean, let's be for real, right? In this lifetime too, okay? They could be involved in like shady things, sketchy things, okay? To try to get to the top, okay? Allegedly, in my own opinion. But yeah, there's like this Bonnie and Clyde, you know, being involved in these things, but maybe they were kind of like, you know, doing things that were like lower level in previous lifetimes together. But they've been trying to pull this off for a while now, I feel like, these two, okay? In previous lifetimes. Kim, in her chart, Mars in the 12th house, here are her masculine enemies, okay? So when you guys have Mars in the 12th house, masculines in your life are past life enemies coming through to throw you off your path, okay? So it's really interesting. I always found her relationship with Kanye interesting. Maybe that will be another reading if you guys are interested in another Synastry reading. I found their relationship to be very interesting and also karmic, and now obviously her kid too, Northwest, which is kind of like very similar personality wise to Kanye, okay? I always found this interesting because to me, you know, Kim tried so hard to have such a perfect polished image, okay, which is the Virgo midheaven, okay? All the editing of the photos. Again, the midheaven, you can even look at social media, like, you know, how you present yourself to the public, right? You know, it's not that the midheaven means this, it's just if you look at it in terms of how you're posting, let's say online, like how you're presenting yourself to the public, the midheaven, the 10th house can be how you're presenting yourself, right? So her midheaven being in Virgo, I always found this to be interesting because it's like that whole concept of like editing the photos. They have their own photographers. They want everything to be perfect. Boom comes through Kanye running his mouth. This is why it's karmic for her. Okay. But at the same time, it's karmic because she also tries to siphon his energy to get to the top, right? There's a lot of them siphoning masculine's energies to get to the top too, right? That's kind of also like the energy vampire theme here that they kind of do. Okay. Within this family line, allegedly. Look, also for Kris, her Saturn, okay? Her Saturn is in Kim's 12th house as well, okay? So that gives me even more of a vibe. Maybe she was a parent in a previous lifetime, or maybe she was the husband or something like that authoritative figure from a previous lifetime. It's karmic. Like this dynamic, this family dynamic is karmic. Okay, look, her Mercury goes into Kim's 10th house. Kim's Venus goes into Kris's 10th house. Kris's Mars goes into Kim's 10th house. Like all this 10th house energy, synastry going on here, like especially because it's also like Venus, right? For example, and even Mars, like the ambitions, the money, the gains, right? Like, you know, again, it just makes sense, right? When I look at the chart, like why these two are the match to kind of push it to the level that they push it to, right? I don't know about the other sisters, right? Because I haven't looked at their charts and their synastry with Kris, for example, but I kind of see how it played out, okay, for Kim to be that person, okay? So that's basically what's going on with that. Now, some other aspects that are taking place here between the two of them, okay, you know, they have moon trine moon, so they get along on that soul level, okay, is really what it is. Even their feminine energy planets are trining, right? So Kim's moon is trining Kris's Venus, right? So they probably both, you know, really enjoy fashion together and looking nice. And again, that whole concept of like polishing the image and perfecting the image, like, you know, they're in on it together. And here it is again, okay, a similar energy. So it's Kim's Venus that sextiles the ascendant for Kris, right? So the sextile is bringing through again, okay, that energy of like, you know, perfecting the image, or like, again, because it's Kris's ascendant, right? And it's Venus and Virgo, literally, right? You know, Kim is literally playing out this image, this vision that Kris had in her mind is really, really what it is, okay? And again, I really do think that Kim enjoys that. But, you know, here's the thing, right? It's like, I think while, you know, the money and all the accolades are coming in, like she's happy, right? Like full-blown materialist, right? While everything's going great. Curious to know what would happen if it wasn't working out in her favor. This dynamic would have played out differently, right? If the material wasn't there, if the money wasn't there, if the fame, if the success, I think this energy would have played out in a completely different way. This is what I mean, right? This is what I mean when you look at these aspects. You kind of have to look at it in terms of the story, right? So because they're thriving, you know, they have the money, they're getting everything that they want. It's like, you know, Kim is happy internally, right? But if that wasn't there, I think these two would actually have beef is really what it is, okay? But that's just my own opinion. Anyways, you know, Kris's moon squares Kim's Pluto, okay? So again, you know, she's basically obsessed with Kim is really what it is, because to her, okay, again, Kim is her 12th house, right? So she's her 12th house personified for Kris. So it's kind of like Kris is like, literally like this girl, okay, this is subconsciously, obviously, again, I don't know these people, but like this kind of probably what's happening energetically, right? She's probably kind of like, this girl is literally what I want it to be, you know what I mean? Like she like put it on her energetically is really what it is, Which is interesting because then that kind of brings in the question, like, is Kim living for herself? Or is she just kind of like living to get the approval from the mother? Do you know what I mean? Or is it like, does she ever know who she truly was? Or again, like, were all these things promised to her from a young age? Because I always remember that video that went around her. Was it like in high school or wherever she was, where she was like, I'm going to be the most famous girl? Like, is this something that was put into her ear from a young age? Like, that's the whole question here, you know? But I think she's enjoying it. Like, I don't feel any resistance when I hook into the energies here. But at the same time, they probably cloak their energy if we're going to be real, you know? Is really what it is, okay? Moon trine Saturn. That was the other thing I noticed here too. They have a lot of Uranus aspects taking place here between each other, okay? I think this is more so behind the scenes what could take place here with the Uranus, right? But, you know, I think again, because things are exciting for them, you know, the dynamic between the two of them is harmonious for this reason, you know, because Uranus needs the newness, needs the excitement, right? Let's say, you know, these two individuals, right, were regular everyday people, let's say working a 9 to 5, I think they would have more issues between each other, right? You know, there would be a lot more friction here. But it's like, again, that's all kind of cloaked is really what it is, you know, pushed to the side, because it's like they're very goal oriented, which is Saturn, which is this earth plane. Yeah, more Saturn energies here. It's a lot of, you know, Kris's Saturn aspecting Kim's personal planets. Yeah, a lot of Kris's Saturn is aspecting Kim's personal placements, which again, she is the parent, okay, which is also Saturn, but at the same time is the business, right? It's like, it's interesting to see because it's like they're no longer just a family, like they're an actual business, okay? Venus sextile Saturn, like literally bringing in the money, bringing in the gains, okay? It's happening from Kim's side to hers too. Kim's Saturn sextiles Kris's Venus as well, okay? Here's like the projection energy, okay? Here's more of the projection. Her sun, so this is Kim's sun, is conjuncting basically Kris's Neptune. So that's that 12th house energy again. It's a lot of what Kris projects Kim, because she could be a people pleaser. She's a Libra, unconsciously plays into that, okay? Is really what it is. But as long as she's getting the love and the adoration, I think, from the mother, this is an exact aspect. Oh my goodness, 0 degrees. Like, it's literally her Neptune, which is Kris, is literally right on top of Kim's sun, right? So when you have these Neptune aspects taking place, okay, it could be the other person behaves unconsciously, or like unconsciously they're projecting onto the sun person. But a lot of this feeds into Kim's ego. You know what I mean? A lot of it is feeding into her identity, her persona, right? So that's basically that energy. And then again, more obsession here with the Pluto dynamic. Okay, so, you know, her sun sextiles, this is Kim's sun sextiles Kris's Pluto, right? So again, you know, there could be triggers. I mean, just like any family, I'm sure there's things that happen behind the scenes that obviously not everybody sees, but there's so many Uranus aspects here, you guys. And I think this is why everything is always like exciting and new, right? They both have like Jupiter Uranus aspects from each other's placements taking place here as well. Okay, that's the money, sudden unexpected money, always new ideas, always starting a new business, funneling this into this, into this. So yeah, so I can see how these two are playing out, you know? It's really, really interesting. But the key thing here is Kim is basically the 12th house of Kris personified. So she is playing out Kris's unconscious dreams is really what it is. And I think as long as she's getting the attention from the mother and she gets to stay number one, I think she's fine and happy with her position, right? Again, if they weren't wealthy and maybe they were everyday people, okay, there would be other issues here to resolve, I feel like. Because for them, like, they're also materialist, of course, right? It's like everything is kind of working out in their favor. It's almost like because the money is there, there aren't any of these issues that are like taking precedence almost, right? I hope that that makes sense. That's kind of what I pick up on here. Yeah, she has a lot of karma with the mother. Oh my goodness. She has so many moon aspects. So when I look at someone's charts, this is Kim, by the way. When I look at someone's charts and I see a lot of sun aspects or moon aspects, to me, that signifies a lot of karma with that parent. So it's like her moon, this is Kim, is in Pisces. Oh my gosh, her moon is literally conjunct the IC, also 28 degrees, which is the 4th house, even though the moon is in the 3rd. So it's like, in terms of her home and her upbringing, you know, Kris could have been like evasive or like not there or like, you know, doing her own thing or something of that sort, not giving her attention. Something of that sort could have taken place in the earlier part of her life. And then it's interesting. Yeah, she even has moon square Neptune. Yeah, the mother was like unclear. You know, there could have been very much like an unclear upbringing here with the moon square Neptune. I don't know the whole story here, but you know, something's ringing a bell where like Kris was like off kind of chasing her men. I don't know if she was like in the house with the kids I don't know what was going on there. But yes, I feel like as I hook into this, there probably was a period of time where she didn't get to spend with her mother, okay, when she was younger, which is something that happens with the moon and Pisces and when it's in the shadow, okay, sometimes neglect and so on and so forth. And I feel like during this period of time in her life, she gets to have that bond with the mother that she didn't have when she was younger. And I think that that's why nothing else really matters, I think, in terms of like the dynamic between the two of them, because she gets to have that spot with the mother. Do you know what I mean? This is why like the other kids like don't even really matter like in the dynamic. Do you know what I mean? It's not like she's jealous of the other sisters. Maybe the sisters are jealous of their dynamic, but because she gets to hold that space for Kris, it's like that's like healed between them, or is being healed between them. So it's like she'll continue to play into that. I hope that makes sense, because she's getting the attention from the mother that she didn't have when she was a kid, okay? And I'm not a psychologist. This is just my own observation. Yeah, there's a lot of aspects to the moon here. There's a lot to clear here between each other, right, in terms of issues. But I think because she has the attention from the mother, because she is so successful, okay, that is basically kind of what's pushing the dynamic forward. I hope that makes sense. I'm noticing Kim even has Venus square Neptune. Oh, she's Mercury conjunct Uranus. She actually is really smart, even with the Mercury in Scorpio. I mean, you have to be smart. Even her third house is in Aquarius. She's really smart, actually, okay? Even though they may have portrayed themselves as dumb or like they don't know anything. Very, very smart and very much like 10 steps ahead energetically. I mean, here's the thing, you know, not everybody obviously gets to these positions. Oh yes, and then the Venus square Neptune is like the creativity is really what it is, but also always looking for that one true love. I think that's why in her relationships, like she is like unsuccessful, I guess you can say, is like when it comes to her romance life, because she got Venus in Virgo, trying to perfect or sometimes taking on projects. A lot of these men are enemies from a past life, but also they're siphoning their energy, okay, to kind of like, you know, basically elevate themselves, allegedly, in my own opinion. And then there is this part of her that kind of holds out for this one true love, but I do feel like it's like a past life thing for her, which I'm not going to get into now. This was just a synastry between the two of them. So if you guys want an in-depth reading for just Kim, let me know. But yeah, I'm going to wrap with this reading here. I do hope you guys enjoy this reading. If you did, please do like, share, and subscribe. Okay, if you guys would like your own reading, send me an email. Okay, it's going to be in the description box below. And I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day or evening, wherever you guys are.